Shana Tova, everyone, again. Shana Tova. So a week ago, my husband and I were sitting at dinner, and he said, name one person you know well who isn't difficult. And I was like, and then we sat in silence. Now, our silence may reflect our friends and our family, but I doubt it. We're all a little bit difficult, including me, according to my husband. We're all a little bit difficult because life is difficult, and it's hard to be human. During the next 9 days, from today until Yom Kippur, I invite us to lean into admitting that you too may be a little bit difficult. And part of our tshuva work is wrestling with our difficult parts, our shadow sides, the sides of us that fuel some of our challenging, questionable, or problematic behavior. Forgive me if this sermon doesn't apply to you. You're welcome to take a stretch now and leave. But what I'd like to do with those of you who remain is to do a little text study. And you don't need to have any prior knowledge to do what we're going to do. Everyone here is on equal ground. The only requirement, as David Aronson likes to say at Shabbat morning Torah study, is an open heart and an open mind. We're going to look at a handful of texts about what's called in Hebrew our Yetzer HaRa, which is usually translated as our evil inclination, Ra meaning evil. Yetzer we're going to get to. But I think that that's too simple of an explanation. It is more like a powerful animal-like force that's, on the one hand, necessary to sustain the world, and on the other hand, extremely dangerous when left unchecked. According to the rabbis, this Yetzer HaRa is the source of our challenging actions. So if I can have, I don't know, like 6 people to help me pass out sheets, that would be great. Okay, there's probably one for like, I don't know, every other person. Okay, who needs or who isn't sitting next to someone? Just raise your hand. Okay, this area right here needs. Thank you, Michael. Okay, who else isn't sitting? This whole area needs. Okay, Rika has more. Who else needs? Okay, great. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, from creation. By the way, we're not going to read every single text word for word, so you can take these home and keep them under your pillow. But they're really fabulous texts. So at the very beginning, humanity is created, right? God created humankind called Adam in the divine image, creating us in the image of God. B'Tselem Elohim bara oto, created this one thing, Adam, both in male and female form. Zachar u'nekeva bara otam. And God saw all that had been made and found it tov ma'od, very good. This is the only time that Torah says that it was very good in God's eyes. All the other things God created, it just says, and it was good. But when humanity was created, it says tov ma'od, it was very good, okay? And then here's the word Yetzer that we see for the very first time. Remember, this animalistic force called HaRa has that word Yetzer in it. God Vayitzer, and God formed from the root Yetzer, that human, that Adam, from the dust of the ground, min ha'adama, see the play on words, Adam and Adama, Adam and ground, and breathed into its nostrils the breath of life, nishmat chayim, and the human, that Adam, became a living soul. So that's the first time that we see the word Yetzer, is when God formed, almost like a sculptor, us from the earth. The rabbis are playing with that word Yetzer, created and formed. And they wonder, in the next text that we're going to look at from the Talmud, they wonder, when does this powerful part of ourselves, this Yetzer HaRa, enter each person? So often in the Talmud, remember how Jesse's one of my Talmud students, by the way. Let's hear it for Taste of Talmud once a month with me. You're all welcome to join that on the web. So in the Talmud, there are lots of conversations often between rabbis, but every once in a while, there's a conversation between a non-Jew, often a woman or a leader. In this case, it's the Roman emperor, and Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who becomes the codifier of the Mishnah. And Antonios says to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, so by the way, when did this Yetzer enter human beings? Was it from the moment that the embryo was formed, or was it from the moment that we emerged from the womb? And the rabbi first says, oh, it's from the moment that we become an embryo. And then the Roman emperor argues with the rabbi and says, how could that be? Because if it was from the time we were an embryo, then the mother would be kicked all the time. And it would be miserable. And so it must be from the time that the Adam, the human being, exits from the woman. And the rabbi says, you know what, you're actually right. And so then the rabbi says, yeah, you're right. And he quotes a verse from Genesis chapter 4, sin crouches at the entrance. Okay, you get it? It's like a play on what's going on. Okay, so now we know that this powerful force, this Yetzer HaRa, enters us right at the moment of birth. Okay? And so why is it there? What is its purpose? So there's a midrash from Bereshit Rabbah. Midrash are rabbinic stories on different teachings or different, in this case, different verses in the book of Genesis. Rabbi Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, behold, it was good refers to the good desire, the Yetzer HaTov. And behold, it was very good refers to the Yetzer HaRa, the evil desire. Now, how could it be that the evil desire is very good? That would be extraordinary. But without the evil desire, teaches this midrash, no man would build a house or take a wife or have children. And that's why we have this thing called the Yetzer HaRa. Now, this is a radical text. On the one hand, this powerful animal-like force is actually very good. And yet, it doesn't listen to reason or to ethics. And also, it seems necessary for humanity to keep on living. Because if we don't have this Yetzer HaRa in us, teaches this midrash, we're not going to build a house, we're not going to get married, and we're not going to have children. Okay. But it's still problematic. We all have these parts of ourselves that are hard to contain. And so the rabbis have this fantasy that maybe they can contain it. And they have a plan. And the plan is that they're going to control the Yetzer HaRa by trapping it. So here's the next story in the Talmud, Talmud Yoma. It's a really famous story. Maybe some of you know it. They start complaining. And they cry out and they say, Rabbi Yochanan says, whoa, whoa, this evil inclination, this Yetzer HaRa, it has done so many bad things in our world. It has destroyed the temple. It's burned our sanctuary. It's murdered righteous people. It's caused the Jewish people to be exiled from the land. We don't want it anymore. We want to get rid of these wild animalistic instincts that are in us, and we just want to get rid of it. So you don't have to read along. I'm going to summarize it. But again, take it home, put it under your pillow. So God agrees. God says, fine. You want this Yetzer HaRa? You want to contain it? I'm going to give it to you. And so it comes down in the form of a fiery lion cub. I need to do my own research on that. I can't figure that one out. I've tried. I can't figure it out. But it comes down in the form, this is all metaphor, of a lioness cub. And they get hold of it, and they're like, what should we do with it? And so what they do is they throw it in a container, a lead container that doesn't echo, and they seal it. And they think, yes, now we've got it. And then they turn to Zechariah, and they say, is this a good choice? And Zechariah the prophet warns them. And they see, Zechariah says, listen, if you kill the Yetzer HaRa, if you smother it and kill it, the world will be destroyed. For 3 days, they keep the Yetzer HaRa in this lead container. And then they look around, and they see not one egg has hatched in 3 days. Essentially, no one's having intimacy. People aren't having intimacy. Animals aren't having intimacy. And so they peek open the lead box, and they're like, hey, Yetzer, it's you and me. Like, what are we going to do? And the Yetzer says, you were warned, if you keep me trapped, the world will be destroyed. And so ends the Talmud piece. Fine. The rabbis agree to let the Yetzer HaRa go under one condition. They gouge its eyes out, apparently to somehow subdue its power. And I wonder how often we try to lock up or suppress our Yetzer HaRa. We think we can get away with fooling it by numbing ourselves with substances or running away with our distractions. Or perhaps, just as harmful, we pretend that our Yetzer HaRa is under control all the time and is of no consequence. And then when we're not looking, it rears its uncontrollable head. Think about our world now. Think about the anger, the loneliness, the alienation between people. Think about the wars raging in the world, judgmental attitudes, our Earth's decline. When we deny the power of our Yetzer HaRa, all we're doing is hiding from ourselves. So what are we supposed to do? If locking it up doesn't work, if denial is counterproductive, so the rabbis come up with a crazy suggestion. Look at Brachot 54a, again from the Talmud. One is obligated to recite a blessing for the bad that befalls him, just as he recites a blessing for the good. As it is stated, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, b'chol levavcha. This Mishnah explains the verse as follows: with all your heart, b'chol levavcha, means with your two yetzers, your two inclinations, your yetzer hatov, your good inclination, and your yetzer HaRa, your animalistic inclination. So this, I think, is radical. Can you imagine offering a blessing for your yetzer HaRa? What aspect of your yetzer HaRa would you want to offer a blessing for? Would it be your tendency to escape with substances, with food, with sex, with work, with pouring yourself into your kids? Or would it be your challenging character traits like your impatience or judgmental attitude or egocentrism? Fill in your blank. And then imagine doing what this text is asking us or inviting us to do, holding tenderly, without judgment, your yetzer HaRa and giving it a blessing. What would you say to it? What would you want your yetzer HaRa to hear? Remember that our yetzer HaRa and yetzer HaTov were both formed at creation. This next text is so emotionally astute. It challenges us to think of them, both the Tov and the Ra, as one and the same. Look at Bereshit Rabbah 9:9. Rabbi Zera said, behold, it was Tov Ma'od, very good, right? This is what God says at creation. And this, he teaches, is the Garden of Eden. Because it says, and behold, it was very good. This is also Gehenna. So listen to what this text is saying, is that Tov Ma'od is both the Garden of Eden and Gehenna. It's the same place. And he teaches, so whoever accustoms himself with mitzvot and good deeds, okay, they're living in the Garden of Eden. And whoever doesn't, they're living in Gehenna. Crazy. It's the exact same place, but you come to it in two different ways, right? The same garden, or read the same qualities, or our same animal-like drives can be used for good, which can bring us into the Garden of Eden, or can be used for destruction that will bring us into Gehenna or hell. It's up to us. Same drive, two different outcomes. How true. How many times have you been told, or is it just me, that my strength is also my weakness? Or a gift that you have can be interpreted by some as helpful and others as harmful. Or a relationship that you have can be pursued for holiness or can cross a boundary. So these are the texts I wanted to look at today. And I have one final one when we're done. But I'd love to hear how these are sitting with you. I've given you a couple of questions at the end of the text. And I invite you now to spend the next 5 minutes in Chavruta, either with someone next to you or someone behind you, but preferably just one other person. And answer any of the questions I've posed, or if there's something, a text that really pops out at you, go deeper in that with your Chavruta. We're not going to be sharing, but this is a time for us to really dig deeper. And again, I'm going to be using some of these texts on Yom Kippur to go further in my sermon. So take 5 minutes and then we'll come back together. I'm not sure if I now feel relieved that our Yetzer HaRa is out there running wild, or if I'm scared, probably a little bit of both. But I just want to end with one more text, which I was surprised by. This is also from the Talmud Sota, and it says that it's taught in a Baraita by Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. With regards to the Yetzer HaRa, it's the same as with a child. The left hand, the weaker hand, should reject it, and the right hand should welcome it. It seems counterintuitive. One might think that the rabbis would want us to use our right hand, our dominant hand, to forcefully push it away. But no, it's our left hand, our weaker one. That's the one we're asked to use to push away our Yetzer HaRa. And with our right hand, we're told to welcome these wild animal forces and have them sit next to us. So welcome Yetzer HaRa. For the next 9 days, we're going to dance with you. We're going to go deep, get honest, and get real. Stay tuned for Yom Kippur morning. We continue now.